pilot has a kind of an upward ceiling of how good can you get. You can make sure you never miss a checklist and you do all the right steps, but there's a limit to your value add. So be able to be more things and be more helpful to any company is always going to serve you.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, it's Monday, and today is an interview episode. Super special guest, the CEO of Ravn Alaska and Northern Pacific Airlines, Rob McKinney, joined me to have a conversation all about his company. Rob is such a nice, generous guy, and we just dove down on the Alaska flying. I'll tell you what, you want to go do something that you'll never forget, that will be the anchor point for the rest of your life of the coolest flying you've ever gotten to do, go fly with Ravn. Because you will fly in some of the most beautiful, breathtaking places in the world. You will have experiences that will never be topped. And it is just such an opportunity. If you need to go flying and you're flexible with living somewhere, go. Do not hesitate. My God, like what an opportunity to fly somewhere awesome. A lot of people want to tell themselves that they need to stay where they are, and they won't get out and make themselves a little bit uncomfortable. But those that do get rewarded, and I'll tell you what, it is such an awesome place. Rob is a great human. He's always around. People know him. It's a small company, and they are very much like a family. I love everything about it. And last but not least, let's have a quick word from our sponsors, because without them, we wouldn't have this awesome podcast. Hey, pilot, it's Nick. I want to tell you about a great friend of the show, Timothy P. Pope. He's a financial planner, and he's completely focused on the professional pilot. He's the kind of guy you want to go to for real talk to help you figure out your financial future. With so many upgrades and so many transitions and so many things going on, you owe it to yourself to give him a call. He'll help you design and execute really smart financial planning strategies, whether it's retirement planning, investment management, military transition, tax planning. He's a great financial planning partner. Timothy P. Pope, CFP, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Give him a shout. All the information's in the show notes. You should definitely tell him I told you to call. All right, everybody, welcome. I have a really awesome guest. I've got Rob McKinney, the CEO of Ravn Alaska. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Man, this is super fun, being able to have a conversation with a really interesting airline. And I met your team a couple times. I met them at OBAP. I met them at RTAG. They are out there. They are hungry. They are talking to as many people as possible. And so first off, hats off to your team, because they were crushing it and they were super receptive and excited to get us connected. So keep those guys moving and let's get them to all those conventions.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you saying that, Nick. I can't be more grateful. I'm just really surrounded by the best set of professionals that I've ever had in my entire career. And as you know, any organization, it's never about one person. It's about the team. And we just have just fantastic people that just bleed Ravn and Northern Pacific every single day. So I'm extremely grateful for them.
Yeah. And let's tell the folks at home, the pilot that's listening, about Ravn, how you came into Ravn, where you came in and started kind of lighting things on fire, and where you're going for the future. So if I'm the pilot, I do my internet research and things like that. I kind of see what's going on. Like, what is the story of Ravn and what is the interesting stuff that I can't really find online?
There's quite a bit of interesting history. You can learn a lot even on Wikipedia. Ravn has a really long history. It goes back over 50 years. And has had lots of evolutions. Where I came into the picture was July of 2020. I had just had to put pause on an airline that I was starting in Southern California because of COVID, and was thinking there's probably other airlines in distress. So we started looking around, and sure enough, Ravn had fallen into trouble. And it was due to more than just COVID. They had had a series of just really bad things go against them. It was a project that really inspired me and my business partner because, one, it was an airline that made a difference for the state. These people depended on the airline. It was a lifeline for them, really. They're not on the road system. They can't get medicine, or they can't go to a doctor. They can't see family without an airline. With the airline shut down, they were completely isolated. And while we could have maybe acquired some 737 carrier that flew sports teams around, which have been kind of cool. One, we didn't really feel like we could make a difference there. And two, we didn't feel like that made a difference to anybody else. So we rolled up our sleeves, and boy, it was a challenge to try to raise the money to convince people it was a good idea to buy a bankrupt airline in the middle of a pandemic. My hat's off to my business partner. I think we ended up doing like 275 pitches and finally found the right team, pulled it together, and acquired Ravn out of the bankruptcy in August of 2020. The real interesting thing just for me is I was living at Maui at the time. And so all of a sudden, I'm now the leader of this new airline based in Anchorage, Alaska. And like, oh, wow, I could have moved to Anchorage from Maui. But it's been wonderful. I really enjoyed it. People think I'm crazy, but it's very similar to Hawaii in lots of different ways. And we can get off to that offline. But anyway, it's just been this journey of rebuilding Ravn. And so from where we started there we bought 7 -8s out of the bankruptcy, and now we're up to 11 in the fleet doing all intra-Alaska operations. We have a really excellent partnership with Alaska Airlines. You could earn and use your Loyalty Alaska points on Ravn, interline connectivity with them. So we have this excellent partnership with them. And that was kind of trouble when we got into, we'll say 2021. And that like, well, what do we do now? Because in business, you're either growing or you're shrinking. There's no real way to tread water. And we were kind of hemmed in because we didn't really want to fly against our really good partner. And there wasn't a lot of places for us to go. So we only had a few options. And one of them was the Northern Pacific idea of kind of replicating what Icelandair has been so successful at doing. We were going to connect Asia with what we call up here the lower 48, the continental U.S., and use Anchorage as a stopover point, because in actuality, if you fly direct between those two areas, you're flying right over the top of Alaska anyway due to Great Circle routing. And so we put the business plan together and started to work on that. And it was May of 2021. And here we are. We're most of the way through the FAA approval process. We're all the way through the DOT approval process. We have 4 Boeings in our possession. 2 of them are completely done, all shiny, ready to go. So yeah, we're in building mode. And then concurrently with that, just so pilot issue is super important to us, we're also starting back into the 135 area of airlines and air carriers. So we have a 135 carrier that we're adding Beech 1900s to. So our goal is to be able to start a pilot at 500 hours in the right seat of a Beech 1900, and with one seniority number and a one-stop shop, have a career all the way through to the left seat of an international Boeing.
What a great recap and a kind of setting the stage. So much I want to unpack here. The first thing is that for the pilot listening, right? All of what Rob said, we've got 3 different parts of this airline. You have a part 135, which is flying Beech 1900s. You have -8s that are flying a 121 passenger world that's connecting small communities to Anchorage, right? So they're going in, they're going out, they're home based. You're home pretty much at the end of every
night. Yeah.
Where it goes down. You're out and backs. You have a schedule that you can count on. And so your quality of life is super duper high. Now, you've got this third part of the airline, which is Northern Pacific, right? And Northern Pacific's flying 75s and plan to Asia. I read that you had made a blanket request from Mexico as well. Is that true? Did I read that correctly?
We did. That was, we were heading for a while. We've kind of pivoted. We're now in talks with the government of the Commonwealth of North Marianas Islands, and we're probably going to be heading that direction to connect Saipan with Australia rather than Mexico, because it's a better deal for us and it's kind of inconsistent with our altruistic methods. We were going to be able to take tourists to Mexico versus Saipan really is suffering due to lack of air service, inability of tourists to get there. So we really feel like we can make a difference for that nation and that island community.
To the pilot, I think you need to be focused on these words. These words are about flexibility, about pivoting, about finding the place where there's opportunity. And when you build your own opportunity, that's where you build success. In the mainland US, you've got all the airports that are doing all the things and the gates are full of every single thing. But then you've got the opportunity in Alaska to choose your own adventure and to find that place that is profitable for the company, and which in turn becomes profitable for you. So that is a super compelling thing. The next part of Rob was talking about is that 500-hour low time cat. Like that guy or gal, you want to go to Alaska, you want to go fly some unbelievable flying and fit in a place where you can go to a wide body. I mean, their growth plan is to a wide body. That's super compelling. You're also hiring direct entry captains into the Dash 8. Is that correct?
It is.
And what's the path to get to the 7.5?
One direct seniority number. So in actuality, Northern Pacific and Ravn Alaska are two separate brands of the exact same air carrier certificate. So there's no transition whatsoever other than just bidding new equipment and being able to hold a line. So there's a little bit of a transition from the Ravn Connect, the 135 piece, into Ravn. But once you're in Ravn, that's seamless all the way through to the Boeings.
Yeah. And so we were talking about pay rates and kind of generally where you guys sit and why the story is compelling for that pilot who wants that Alaska experience. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so we just recently adjusted the pay rates. And so we put it so we were kind of in the middle. Pay is kind of going nuts, as everybody knows, with regionals, with everybody right now, just because of the nature that we're in. So we put ourselves pretty much right in the middle. And then go along with that, we're offering 15 days on, 15 days off schedule. So every single month, you get at least half the month off. So it's a very commutable schedule. We have jump seat, KCM, and everything with every air carrier out there. And so that's the goal, is to be able to come up to Alaska, work for a couple of weeks, do your thing, and then go back to wherever it is that ultimately you want to live for a commensurate rate that you could get, somewhere else with a lot worse schedule and a lot fewer opportunities that you'd have to start over and re-interview to move on to bigger equipment.
Got it. And so when I'm on my 15 days on and I'm home based and I come back at the end of the day, am I responsible for my own crash pad, or do you guys cover hotels? Do you have a big dormitory in an old World War II building or Cold War building out there?
We're working on that. So right now, you'd be responsible. We do have some rooms here and there that we can help people out with. The goal, though, is that we're going to get full onto the housing business, and that will be part of the compensation as well, is that there will be a free place to stay. But that's probably going to take us a year to get that all spooled up.
That's awesome. As a guy that commutes, that is one of the hardest parts. And for any kind of home-based airline to have to live where you fly out of is an important choice for your family. And providing that flexibility, I think, is probably going to be pretty welcome for recruiting efforts and for the pilot group. So I think that'd be really cool.
The other aspect of that, Nick, though, is once you do get into the Boeings, we're allowing people to domicile any city that we serve. So you live in LA, Vegas, San Francisco, New York, or Orlando, and it works just fine.
Or Saipan?
Potentially Saipan, yes. I guess to that end, you could live in Brisbane or Sydney.
Yeah, heck yeah, let's go. When you hire the guy or gal that lives in Saipan, I would like you to send them my way, because I would like to talk with them about what it's like living in Saipan. That's so cool. All right. So you're a Purdue guy, right?
I am, yes.
Can you tell us, how does a Purdue guy go from just growing up in Indiana to getting into understand that Purdue has a great aviation college there? How do you make that move? How do you get to leadership in the aviation business?
Well, I don't know that my path is one that can be repeatable. I'm certainly happy to tell you the circuitous route that I took. I left Purdue with every intention of just being a pilot, but it was the exact opposite back then. It was the days where you couldn't even buy a job. American Eagle was charging $10,000 as a training fee up front to pay you $10,000. And that's if you could even get on. And it was just really bad time. So out of Purdue, I flight instructed for 2 years. And then I hauled canceled bank checks at night in old nasty Barons and Aerostars for a couple years. And then I flew FedEx Caravans for a couple years. Honestly, I just got dejected, and I just had to leave the industry because I was really working hard and just I felt like a hamster on a wheel, not going anywhere. And then after a couple of years, I was jonesing that, I want to go fly something. So I went back to the local FBO, and I had 3,500 hours of multi and probably, 5,000 hours total time at that point. But the industry had changed. It goes in cycles, and I had not paid attention. And they made me the chief pilot walking in the door. I'm like, holy crap, what is this? And so that was my first getting into management, because that had not even occurred to me. As local little 135s are, this was kind of a little shyster operation. So I left that after 6 months and went to an FBO in Texas and got an air carrier certificate from scratch. So that's where I started learning all my government skills on how you deal with all the regulatory entities. And I learned how to write my own manuals, and all this kind of stuff was mostly self-taught. And then that came to an end, and I moved over and started flying Learjets for FlexJet. And that was an awesome experience. It was just tough. And then aviation kind of turned again. And I started as an FO. 2 years later, I was actually further away from upgrading to captain than I was the day I walked in the door because they'd shrunk the company out from under me. And so I got this offer to go be the chief pilot and run a little air carrier out in Hawaii. And I thought, they literally interviewed me over the phone and said, hey, what do you think? I'm like, okay. And so that was a lot of fun too. But then I had this opportunity. Somebody bought one of the competitors, and it was just this little VFR tour company, and he wanted a commuter airline. So I was able to put my government skills to work and got them all the commuter certificates and all the economic authority and started running a commuter airline. And then by that time, I had a LinkedIn profile and people found me. And so that's when I got found to go start an airline from scratch in the Pacific Northwest. And then from there, it was just been kind of mostly management ever since then, up until Ravn is the first time that I've worked here 2 full years and not been able to, I haven't actually qualified to fly the airplanes that we operate until now. I'm actually in Dash 8 ground school as we speak.
Right.
I'm going to keep my CEO title. I'm going to go back and fly the line when I can.
Are you going to be an FO, or are you putting yourself as a new hire captain?
With our rules and with just the safety of operating in Alaska, I got to be an FO for 300 hours, which is plenty fine with me.
I hope your sim partner is like super holding you tight to the line, like, you need to study. Let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was the funny thing in my last job. I was still a check airman, and that just always freaked people out. They said, oh, yeah, you got to take your check ride with the CEO of the company. I'm like, I was no tougher than anybody else, but the fancy title scares people.
I can imagine you like saying words like EBITDA and stuff like that and looking at some book, some very thick book as you're like debriefing this guy. Hold on. You got found on LinkedIn. You got recruited off LinkedIn to start CEOing things. Is that true?
Yeah. One was off YouTube. That's how I got involved with Float Shuttle project in Southern California. They found me off YouTube. But yeah, twice it's been off LinkedIn that I've just gotten called out of the blue, said, hey, can you help start an airline for us?
So, all right. I have so many pilots, I have so many life experiences that have a lot of really interesting professional background. What advice do you give them for that kind of networking level? I mean, that's intense.
Well, the way it worked for me, and I think the way it would work at almost any company, because we're all looking for talent and we're all looking for people who just want to pitch in and want to be part of the company, is I could have just been a chief pilot at that first company, but they said, oh, we need maintenance software. Like, okay, I'll figure this out. And so I went and learned how maintenance software worked. I don't have my A&P, but I tell you what, I know how consumables, rotables, I know about illustrated parts catalogs and AD service bulletins, all that stuff I learned by doing this whole software project. And then I ended up counting every single part and then installing it into the software. And then from there, I learned how reservation systems worked, and I learned about ARC ticketing and distribution and all these global distribution systems. And that was really how I learned, is by offering to do things for the air carrier that I work for. And with some pilot jobs, that might be tougher than others. The way I've always believed is that you're never going to get paid more unless you're worth more. And so I've always tried to do more things than what was really my job description. And that's what's given me the skill set to really become what I am. I did go back to school at one point and got my MBA, and that probably helped, just window dressing kind of stuff. But ultimately, it was all that nuts and bolts stuff, sitting out in an unconditioned T hangar counting parts, that I learned as much as I ever did going through B school.
Diversifying yourself, making yourself smarter and more valuable with these skill sets, these ancillary skill sets. I got hired by a ULCC completely based off of LinkedIn. No apps, no nothing, like straight up a conversation on LinkedIn, interacting with the right people, making those conversations impactful and not transactional. And I think that can go a long way for any pilot that's trying to get there, especially if you're not going to take the regular route. If you're going to go around, like, get out there, make yourself valuable, right?
Absolutely. Skills have utility, and the more things you know, and I'm a pilot by heart. I'll always be a pilot. I love flying, but pilot has a kind of an upward ceiling of how good can you get, that you can make sure you never miss a checklist and you do all the right steps, but there's a limit to your value add. So be able to be more things and be more helpful to any company is always going to serve you.
Yeah. And that's true too. We're hiring pilots like crazy right now. We can't keep them. Like, it's nuts. But you know what? 2 years ago, we didn't need you, and you were out the door. And so if you
it'll be that way again. That's the nature of it. I've seen it like 3 times in my career so far.
Yeah. The book Hard Landing. It's all about the train wreck that is our industry, and that's okay. So if you're not making yourself more valuable, if you're not getting involved, if you're flying for Ravn Alaska or Northern Pacific and you are not making yourself more valuable than just a line pilot, that you put yourself at risk. So get going, get involved, be a part of that team that makes or breaks the industry. That's it.
And whether it's Ravn or another 135 Cape Air kind of situation, those are the ones where you have the opportunity to learn these extra skills. Once you get into the real regulated, seniority-driven Uniteds, Deltas, American Southwest, it's a lot harder to be a bigger value add. You can go into the training department and there's other things you can do, but it's a lot more difficult. Where the regional space, then that's the time to really make hay with your skill set.
Absolutely. And get involved. Go invite the CEO to lunch, buy him lunch and see what's up.
Don't even have to buy me lunch. Just stop in and say hi in my office. My office door is always open, and I can probably count on two hands how many people have taken me up on that.
Do you still need an assistant? Are you still without an assistant?
I am. Yeah, I'm between assistants right now.
All right, pilot, you're looking for a place to go. Let's go. Like, give a shout. Find them on LinkedIn. Don't find them on LinkedIn. You can do whatever you want. But if you want to be an assistant for Rob and help him continue to grow the company, let's go. So let's get back to your organization, your desire to find the pilots. Can you talk to the partnerships that you guys have started to develop?
Yeah, so Leading Edge Aviation in Bend, Oregon, and Angel Aviation at Merrill Field here in Anchorage are our first two partnerships where once you get your commercial license, as long as you've checked every box and you've been a pretty good person, you're already get a seniority number with Ravn Connect. And so you're already on the pathway, your spot is held. And then the other thing that we're doing, and this is not limited to our partners, if you have guaranteed student loans that we can show that you got in the course of becoming a mechanic or a pilot, as long as you work for Ravn Connect, Ravn Alaska, Northern Pacific, any one of our family of companies, we will continue to make your monthly student loan payments for as long as you work for us.
That is awesome. And I'll tell you what, you got a 5% interest rate on that. You got a 7% interest rate on your student loan. That benefit, that's almost as big as a benefit as a 401k. So I think that if you got $200,000 worth of loans because you went to Embry-Riddle and you came out and you've got a big heavy pack on your back, you've got to figure out a way to get that down. The financial freedom that you get allows you greater flexibility with all the things that you want to do in your life. Man.
Yeah. And that's really our goal too, is to make aviation more accessible to everyone. We're trying to go into disadvantaged neighborhoods and inner cities and everywhere. Like, you could really have a career, a high paying, nice career in aviation. And here's the way to do it that was virtually for free. You just got to go to an accredited community college that gets guaranteed student loans. And then there's the pathway to all the way to us, and we'll cover the debt. As long as you're a good employee, then you're taken care of.
Yeah. And the ceiling that has been in place to get into aviation is finally starting to come down. It is like, I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina in a relatively poor family. There was one pilot in town who flew for American, and it was US Airways. And he was like the rich guy in town, right? He's like the one guy. It was never, if it weren't for the military, I never had any opportunity to do it and not even thought about it. So that reaching out, because the people that are going to fly, but reaching out and telling people that they can and that they are worthy enough and they are good enough and they can have a great career that changes their family tree. Like, this is what we do. This is what it's all about. And I love that.
Yeah, I had a similar story to yours, except that when I came through was when in the middle of the Reagan reduction in force where you couldn't even get into the military.
Yeah.
So had it not been for guaranteed student loans, it wouldn't have worked for me. I come from a rural community in Indiana. I grew up on a farm and didn't have a lot. And so that's how I got it, is that I was able to do all my flying in conjunction with my college, and then was able to pay off those loans over time as I got out in the workforce.
Yeah, man. September 11th, 2001 was my first day in flight school in the Navy. And it just defined my entire career. And I'm very thankful for the opportunities that the military have given me. And anybody that gives you opportunity, anybody that puts out a hand, you should take it. You should get that step up, get yourself moving, get yourself with the inertia that you need to keep moving forward in your career. And Ravn Alaska is an awesome place to do it. As I wrap it up, one of the things on my intake form is like, do you have any funny stories? Do you have any good stories you can tell us? I would love to hear a story from you. It doesn't have to be about Ravn Alaska or whatever, but like, can you just give us something awesome?
Well, sure. I got a couple that I wanted to share with you. So what sets us apart is I don't know that there's that know what being pooped on in this industry is. And I try real hard to make sure that Ravn is the most fair and the best place we can possibly make it to work. My other funny story, I want to encourage everybody if you do get that airline interview, make sure you come prepared. Make sure you're ready to go. You have questions to ask. One of my questions that I ask everyone is, who in your life do you admire the most and why? Which you kind of think is like, not that big of a trick question. And most people, it's funny. It's like 90% fathers. So I think mothers need a better PR department. But anyway, I actually had one guy look me in the eye and actually put his hand on the table and said, absolutely no one. So, one, if you get an airline interview, don't be a kook.
Yeah.
Make sure you have reasonable answers and make sure you have questions to ask them, that you're engaged and, you really, about their company, why you want to work there, and just put your best foot forward.
Yeah, I do so much interview prep and I love it. I absolutely love every bit of it. And the hardest obstacle I have for people is coming up with do you have any questions for us? Because they're like, what do you think of the new contract? What do you think of this random thing that I saw online? No, let's go deep. Let's be somebody where they're at the end of the day, they're going to close the book and be like, man, nobody's asked me that one. Be a compelling person.
That's such an important thing. And people don't give it enough thought about having questions for the interviewer. That's really a big thing. And I think it's been a stumbling block for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh. I see it all the time. I've done thousands of prep and I would say probably 1% of people have a really solid question. I have my own. I don't give them out because I think they're really good and I don't want everybody to use them. I do think that you should find your story and you should find your connection with that. If you're going to go up to Ravn and interview, 110% Alaska sold, let's go. Let's be ready to live in a place that is amazingly beautiful and not where everybody lives. And that's an awesome thing. And go celebrate it and enjoy it and be it. Rob's going to be your captain on some flight. So you're going to be reading checklists and CEO. That's totally awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for spending time.
Absolutely, Dick.
This has been so enlightening. And I'm super stoked that you would take time to speak with the pilots and just be a normal guy, and you're awesome. So thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. I just give Ravn a look. We're a cool little company and we're getting bigger all the time and it's fun. And I guarantee you'll have a blast and you will look back, even if you move on to one of those other bigger airlines. That's what a lot of people do. And we're totally fine with that. But you'll look back as one of the most fun parts of your life.
Yeah. So all the Ravn information is in the show notes. You'll be able to click the link. It'll bring you to the webpage. Click careers. It'll have everything. Click all careers. It'll drop down and you can apply for any of the airline positions there. Just be ready to rock and roll. Be preparing yourself because it happens fast.
Yes.
Rob, you're awesome, man. Thank you for joining us.
Nick.
All right, buddy. Hey, before I let you go, I need to mention one thing because a lot of people are asking me, can you do anything? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. At Spitfire Elite, we will make more millionaires this year than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. Our company actually does this. It's called Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. And you can find us over at SpitfireElite.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for interview prep because everything you need to crush your interview is there in one spot. Whether it's application review or interview prep, all of it is covered. We've helped thousands of clients who are now flying at their dream jobs because our coaches gave them the one-on-one feedback that they needed to succeed on the biggest day of their life. The best part of Spitfire is our community. All Spitfire clients will get access to our private chats where they can work with each other and they can work with our coaches and get the latest information on all the airlines. If you'd like to make sure that you are 100% ready to go on your big day, there is only one choice. Everything you need is in one place, and I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go over to SpitfireElite.com and check us out. Use the coupon code podcast and it'll save you 10%. And by the way, I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.